Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Janelle Slade. A scare at a Helena school today sends ripple effects across the capital city.
Now, it all started with the discovery of a suspicious device on a school playground. That forced the evacuation of the elementary school and some nervous moments.
Initially, officials thought they were dealing with a possible explosive device, but law enforcement now says it does not appear the item was dangerous.
MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what was behind the changing reports.
By Tuesday afternoon, things were back to normal at Helena's Rossiter Elementary School. For much of the morning, law enforcement had been on scene investigating what was then believed to be an improvised explosive device found on the school playground. But at an afternoon news conference, Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton said it appears the item was not an explosive. School officials found it around 8:20 Tuesday morning. They closed off the area around the item, contacted law enforcement, and evacuated students to the nearby Little Red Schoolhouse. Dutton said officers on the ground found a plastic bottle. Until trained bomb experts were able to safely examine it, he said they had to treat it as though it might be an explosive.
The pop bottle had black tape around it. It was filled with nuts, bolts, and washers, and had a liquid in it. For the most untrained eye, including mine, would probably guess that quite possibly was an explosive device.
Investigators say the bottle came from a construction site, and they believe it was moved by a homeless individual. Dutton said it was not a hoax, and there was no malicious intent. He said the sheriff's office was releasing the information they had from their investigators as they got it.
Our purpose was to let people know, one, there was no one injured. Then it was told that it did explode. Still, there was no one injured. The kids were safe. That's what I needed to get out to the public. That's why we reported the information we had.
While this turned out not to be an explosive, Dutton said the school reacted correctly, and his office treats every case like this seriously.
We will take it on face value every time and treat it accordingly that it is some kind of exploding device.
In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. And school is expected to resume tomorrow with normal activities.
300 acres of land, an emergency resolution, and a couple of items on tap for Billings City Council tonight.
At a price of $2.4 million, the city will make a decision on the purchase of 300 acres for a water treatment plant on the Billings West End. Knife River Construction owns the property near Hesper Road. The water treatment plant will cost in the tens of millions of dollars to build.
And also tonight, the city administrator is asking council members to approve an emergency resolution for that rock slide on Laredo Place. If approved, city staff can move more quickly with the cleanup of the boulders that still litter the street there.
Now, candidates vying for a future seat on the Billings City Council are getting a chance to share where they stand on the issues tonight.
Q2's Mitch Leahy standing by now at the Billings Library with a preview of the candidate forum. Mitch?
Russ and Jeanelle, things are just about to get underway at the candidate forum here in the Billings Public Library Community Room. Here's a quick rundown of how things will shake out. First, the introductions. Each of the 10 candidates will get a chance to introduce themselves to the crowd. Next, the candidates will break out into 5 small groups, representing each ward of Billings. There, a moderator will ask pre-submitted questions by the crowd. And finally, there will be a social hour where all the people in attendance can grab refreshments and have a little bit of time with the candidates. And I'll be attending the forum, and we'll bring you a full update tonight at 10 o'clock. Russ and Jeanelle, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Mitch.
And you can head to KTVQ.com and search City Council for more on the challenges those candidates will face if elected.
Well, Montana's ban on vape and e-cigarette sales goes into effect 1 week from today. Well, tonight, MTN's Cody Boyer has the latest on the effort to stop the ban.
I don't know anybody who can survive without an income for 4 months.
1 week from today, the state will temporarily ban all e-cigarette and vape sales, not if the owners of Freedom Vapes can help it.
When is the injunction expected to happen?
It'll happen within probably the next 24 hours.
The marshals say the injunction will be put before the state district court judge, who could decide to halt the ban again temporarily.
There are shops across Montana already saying that they are going to just go ahead and close up. Montana's going to be a big fat loser in this.
According to the marshals, this injunction includes around 20 other vape shops across the state. If it fails, their fear, folks will step back to unhealthy practices.
Throwing them under the bus, you're going to force them back to combustible cigarettes again.
The Montana Smoke-Free Association is enlisting the help of 3 attorneys, including federal attorney Greg Troutman. I caught up with him from his office in Louisville, Kentucky.
The Department of Health promulgated this emergency rule under a statute that is very clear in its language that is to be used very sparingly. This is not an emergency situation.
At any rate, the marshals hope the injunction buys time.
If they get away with this once, who's next?
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Thanks, Cody. Now, out of more than 1,000 cases of vaping associated illnesses related to e-cigarettes in the country, 2 of them have been confirmed here in Montana, including Yellowstone County and Gallatin County. And today, the state of Oregon started its own temporary ban.
Most of the candidates running for the U.S. Senate and House in Montana filed their latest fundraising numbers today. And as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, the big guns are incumbent Republican Steve Daines in the Senate race and Republican Matt Rosendale and Democrat Kathleen Williams in the House race.
In the Senate race, incumbent Steve Daines reported raising $1.2 million during the past 3 months. That gives him just over $5 million for the entire campaign. And he still has $4.2 million left in the bank. That's more than 80 times the amount held by his 2 nearest potential Democratic challengers, who each had about $50,000 in their accounts on September 30th. One of those, Helena Mayor Wilmot Collins, has raised about $176,000 since May, and the other one, Loma rancher John Muse, took in $101,000 since early July, including $18,000 in loans to himself. In looking at the numbers and other factors, Montana State University political scientist David Parker told me he has a hard time seeing this Senate race becoming competitive. In the race for Montana's open U.S. House seat, Republican State Auditor Matt Rosendale raised $452,000 during the third quarter, pushing his donor total this year to about $650K. Right behind him for the quarter is Democrat Kathleen Williams, who raised $370,000 from donors, but her annual total so far is higher at $800,000. They each have more than $600,000 remaining in their campaign accounts. The other 6 declared candidates in the House race either hadn't made their report available by late Tuesday afternoon or had raised less than $35,000 for the period ending on September 30th. Those include Republicans Corey Stapleton, Helena farmer rancher Joe Dooling, Corvallis School Superintendent Tim Johnson, and former GOP State Party Chair Deborah Lamb, and Democrats Tom Winter of Missoula and Sims rancher Matt Raines. These 5 Republicans and 3 Democrats are competing for Montana's sole U.S. House seat, which is open because incumbent Republican Greg Gianforte is running for governor next year. Parker says it appears Democratic donors are much more excited about the House race at this point than the Senate contest against Daines. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Montana's primary election, which will narrow the field in both races, isn't until next June.
Montana Governor Steve Bullock will not make the 12-person Democratic presidential debate in Iowa tonight.
But that doesn't sit well with his supporters in Iowa, who say the leading candidates in the caucus are far from being decided. Iowa Attorney General Tom Miller has seen decades of politics play out in Iowa, and he believes it's too early to predict the frontrunners.
He told reporters on a press call today that most Iowa Democrats haven't made up their minds yet. Bullock has spent most of his presidential campaign in Iowa trying to gain traction in a similar rural state like Montana. But national polls show him in the lower tier of candidates.
Now, Miller chastised the DNC for its exclusion of candidates, which has been a long-time criticism of the Bullock campaign as well. He says it's an improper role the DNC is playing. That's Iowa's job to decide.
The Iowa caucus is on February 3rd of next year. The DNC debate will air tonight on CNN, and we'll have a full recap right here tonight at 10 o'clock on Q2. And there's more news from across our state tonight on MTN's 9 o'clock news. Missoula Public Schools celebrate a lunchtime first involving 531 pounds of ground beef. Join me for that and more. Your statewide newscast tonight at 9 on the CW.
But first, still to come on tonight's 5:30 news. If you needed a reason to add an extra 4 legs to your family, add longer life to the list. Find out how.
And in sports, we're heading up to Skyview where both teams are battling it out on the court for a different mascot.
We sure hope you didn't miss out on the comfortable temperatures this afternoon, but we're going to give you a couple more opportunities to enjoy some warm. That with a cool down, all the forecast details coming up.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger, Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire, and sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.